What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the first Friday film fight on the JayBee and Millie podcast. We did one last time on the JayBee channel, but today we're going to be doing it as JayBee and Millie. So that is quite exciting. Now, as you might remember, at the end of last podcast, we selected a new category, and that was animated movies. So, as you can probably tell from the thumbnail and from the overlay, I have chosen Coraline, and Millie has chosen
The Lion King.
So, like last time, we're essentially just going to have a section each where we explain why we chose the movies, the merits of the movies, and we have a little discussion about it. And then we move on, and that happens to the other person and their movie, and then we kind of have like a third round to the film fight where we explain it and we see who ultimately wins out.
Okay, so round one. JayBee's movie.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I chose Coraline as my movie. Coraline was directed by Henry Selick, and I believe it was partially based, or maybe fully based, on a novel by Neil Gaiman. He wrote Stardust and Neverwhere, I believe. Now, I've never been able to find the Coraline book, so I'm not sure if it has a different title or anything. But I remember watching Coraline when I was quite young, and I really liked it. You know, the soundtrack, I always kind of have a thing for like soundtracks. I love it when it's composed well, and I just found quite a lot of the music in it so kind of endearing, but also so creepy. It kind of fits the movie perfectly. The story of Coraline is you've got a young girl, Coraline Jones. She's moving house, she's going to a new place, a new house. And it's one of those things where she's kind of fed up with her parents. She thinks they're boring, they're dull, they don't let her do what she wants, they don't let her get what she wants. And so in this house, she finds kind of a trap door of sorts. It's a bit like just a tiny door, but it's all sealed up, except at night she finds the door, and in there is like an alternate reality where she's got a fun mum, the dad's a bit more lively and bombastic, and she can do whatever she wants. She can basically do what she can't do in the other world. And I think the whole concept of that is amazing, because I think at one point everyone's kind of been fed up of the situation or the circumstance, and it's that thing where if there was actually some force, some like, I guess, Pennywise-like force that wanted to like lure you in and trap you, that's exactly what it would do. It would make your life better. And when you get kind of hooked onto that life, they kind of add in a caveat. And I kind of think that that is good. Now, with these film fights, I've tried to make sure that I've chosen films that Millie hasn't seen before.
Yeah.
Like, I was really, really tempted to choose Spirited Away. In fact, at some point, I'm going to make sure we watch Spirited Away. But for now, I'm going to keep it to ones you've not seen before. So, Millie, what were your first impressions of the Coraline movie?
Oh, like, I'm a bit weird when it comes to animated films. I never really watched them as a kid. My parents never liked them. So whenever you want to introduce me to an animated film, I'm always quite apprehensive. So I kind of went into this with an apprehensive mindset. I liked the story. I thought it was relatively unique. I thought there was some beautiful animation. You know, when she first opened the door and there was like the paper birds.
Yeah.
I thought there was some really great characterizations in it. In terms of you talk about soundtracks a lot, and I can't say it really had a soundtrack that I picked up on much. But in terms of the story, characters, I'd say it was quite a good film. I certainly would, at least say I enjoyed it, and I'd definitely watch it again. I found it really interesting when you told me that the young boy's character wasn't in the book, because I thought he was quite a central part to the story.
Yeah, so I read somewhere, I think I heard somewhere maybe, that there's this character in the movie called Wyborn. He like befriends Coraline at the start, and he's like a consistent ally throughout. I guess they kind of have a bit of a rivalry. But in the actual, the other world, the kind of Butter Eye world, he doesn't talk. Now, it's interesting because I've heard that he wasn't in the book at all. He's just an original character made up for the movie. And I think they said that was because all throughout the book, she's on her own, she's talking to herself, or because it is a book, you know, with that medium, you can get internal monologue, like, you know, Coraline thought this, she thought that, but obviously in a movie, you can't really express that, so they needed someone to basically for her to just talk to. But I think for a character that's been invented for that purpose, I think he's actually quite good. You know, he provides a lot of comedic value. He's just kind of a bit of a light-hearted person in a quite grim story when you look back at it. Like, I think if he wasn't in there, perhaps or at least the first part of the movie might play a bit more sinisterly.
Like, because it's him that introduces her to the doll, isn't it?
Yeah, he gives them, you know, he's like, I found my grandma's doll, it looks just like you, have it. And then that's the one that ends up spying on her.
He just seems so central, it's impossible to imagine it without him, really.
I mean, maybe the grandma would still be in it, and she maybe would have introduced the doll. I'm not sure about much of the differences. But regardless, I think everything they do is the right decision for the most part. Like, I think the intro scene is quite iconic, you know, when she's sewing the doll together. Because not only is it's meant to be endearing. You would think it's endearing, like someone singing and making a toy. Like, that's kind of cute, but just those, like, bony kind of fingers and the fact that it looks so creepy, like a dead body, and then the stuffing gets ripped out. It's actually quite horrific, but in a weird way. I mean, I know a lot of people compare this type of animation or style to Tim Burton. You might not know, like, that's like, say, Nightmare Before Christmas and stuff like that. And I can see that, but I kind of think that comparison might be doing somewhat of a disservice to both people, as I think what Tim Burton does more is kind of like finding the quirks in, like, what Gothic horror is meant to be. Whereas I kind of think what this is it's kind of taking normal things, what you'd expect to be normal, like buttons or, you know, things like, I guess, I don't know if you could call it beauty, just the fact that the other one looks so glamorous compared to the original one, and just almost making attractiveness or bright colours almost menacing.
I'd certainly say there was more of a message to this movie than there is maybe Tim Burton's movies, in that, like you were saying, I think every child goes through a time in their life, no matter how briefly, or in a fit of anger even, where they'd think that they'd swap their life for something different. And, you know, it kind of is a movie demonstrating that maybe that's not always the right option. And I think to that end, it does have a real message in it to, like, say, the younger viewers that it's aimed at.
But it's actually quite a good message. Like, I kind of always have a bit of an issue, say, going back to Tim Burton with, I love the movie, but the message of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Because you've got, like, Jack Skellington, he's, like, head of Halloween Town, and he's happy until he discovers Christmas, and then he wants to be the head of Christmas, so he tries to do his own Christmas, he ruins it. And I guess that makes sense, but then that's kind of like, what's the message? Is it, don't try and be what you're not, or don't try and be what you're not good at, or don't try new things, because it will end up backfiring. Just stick to what you know. And I think that's a bit of a bad message. Whereas here, I think the message is pretty much just saying, look, sometimes you are in a genuinely bad situation, that's fine. But for certain things, just beware, because what seems nice and flashy, or what seems like something that's too good to be true, just consider, because it might be.
Yeah, even then, like, all the trouble starting because she didn't listen to her parents, like, they took the key away, and because she rebelled against that, that's kind of the source of all the trouble. So it really does send quite, I guess, potentially important message to children to that end. I certainly think it's one that if a parent saw, they'd probably be in support of, because, you know, it teaches your children that they need to behave, or they might end up getting attacked by some form of skeletal mother.
And it is so creepy though, like, just the thought of, like, having buttons for eyes, like, I can't even, you know, just the process of having that done. But I think it is it does have some deeper meaning. I mean, it must, if the one thing that they take as the eye is how people see, then it must all be about perception. Like, if you want all these nice things, you're going to have to take away how you see things. You're right to see things a certain way and see things our way. We're going to physically sew these buttons into, where your eyes should be. And I don't know, I just really like how it plays out. I really like the imagery and the symbolism. And even though there are some goofy parts, that that Mr. Babinski guy, he's quirky, he's weird,
And the two ladies
Yeah.
with their theatre dancing. And
that's weird, but
the audience of dogs.
ultimately I just think that adds to its charm. Like, I don't know, I don't think I'd be interested in seeing a film that's just doom and gloom. It's just a story about don't get lured into things because this will happen. Like, I think there's enough of that. And there's enough examples of that elsewhere that it doesn't need to necessarily be in that type of movie.
See, I'm quite a critical person, so to that end, like, I do spot flaws in things, and, like, it left me with a few things I didn't understand. Like, I didn't understand how she could fall asleep in one world and end up back in her own bed the next day.
You see, that is odd. And I've always found that odd because to get there, she needs to physically travel through the portal, whereas in the morning she wakes up. And you could argue that that's just how it works, but then there's an example later on where it isn't. Now, and if that's the case, then fine, then we are to assume that the other mother is just trying to lure her in. She's like, right, let's take our time, let's send her back to the boring world to push her further into our world. But then by that logic, why is she messing around at the end with her loose hand trying to get the keys? If she's got the power to transport Coraline from one world to another, why not just transport her there? And when you think about it like that, like, what's the point? Like, if you do have that power, why does she even need luring in? I don't know if it is like Pennywise, if the more scared they are, the more willing they are, like, the more, I guess, fuel they get from it. But if she does have that power, she may as well just have, like, a table with straps and but an eye sewing kit and just do that once a year or so, whenever the next resident moves in.
See, and another thing that I didn't understand is why she saw her parents in the mirror. So we know there's, like, this mirror realm where the other mother, like, throws kids. So she sees her parents in the mirror, but then they aren't actually in the mirror, they're in a globe, and I don't get why she could see them in the mirror if that's not where they were.
See, I don't know about that at all. Maybe the clue was that because they were cold, they were behind glass, logic says, oh, if you can call it logic, they might be in a snow globe, but yeah, I really don't know.
But to that end, I won't say it was a particularly bad movie. I enjoyed it, and like I said, if you, say, turn around in a few months and said, I'd like to watch Coraline tonight, I'd agree.
Well, I do really like it, but I don't know, there were some really good parts, some parts that are that are still confusing, to be honest, like why the other dad ended up siding with Coraline, why the other Y-born ended up trying to help Coraline. It's like, is it because she doesn't design them right? Is it because too much of their actual character fits in? And then by that logic, why is it the mum that's the prominent one?
I never understood the cat. How the cat could talk in one realm, it was weird in another.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think that's one of those things that it's not necessarily a plot flaw. It's one of those things that is just like, this is an element that you're not going to fully understand, but you're not meant to. And I think that can be seen as an easy cop-out for it, but I think that is intentional by the last shot in the film, where despite everything being over, the cat goes behind a fence and disappears. That I think you meant to think, what's he done? Like, is he more involved than you think? Is there more to him? So I do think they're trying to add more mystery around him. I don't think that's necessarily an issue, but it isn't really explained, and I guess it could do with being explained, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the book expands
The
on
other
that.
thing that and like this is my last point, I guess, on the movie that I thought was really weird, is, to find their eye, she had to find 3 balls. Wouldn't it make so much more sense if each person had 2 balls that she had to find? Because it's like 2 eyeballs. like, I didn't understand why two eyes were represented by a single ball.
Yeah, I see. I don't know if I'm reading into it too much, but they say, and this is actually pretty weird what I'm about to say now. But do they not say, and I use the word "they" to describe everyone, that the eyes are the window to the soul? And so, by the taking of the eyes, it isn't just their point of view; it's their physical soul. That's why they're ghosts, kind of doomed in there in like a purgatory type state, because they've literally had their souls taken away from them, and that's more the essence of what they're trying to hunt down.
It's quite an interesting perspective, that, JayBee.
So, I don't know, but I really love the movie. I want to watch it again sometime because I think it's awesome. So, to summarise, I don't think it's a perfect movie. I don't even think it's particularly close to a perfect movie. But it's definitely got enough elements, to do with the animation, the soundtrack. And we've not spoken about it, but even the cast, I think they all do a phenomenal job. I think it is definitely one that I don't think I'm going to tire of anytime soon. I don't think I'm ever not going to be down for watching it. So I think I'm going to give it a 4.3, because it's not bad. Like, I would not consider it 4 or lower. I think it's definitely 4, but I don't think it's that close to being perfect for it to be any more than that 4.5. So I think 4.3 stars out of 5 is a fair place for it.
Okay, so 4.3 out of 5. See, I don't have like that childhood memory stuff that you do, and so I don't feel like I have much loyalty in the film when I say I'd give it a 3.5 star rating. I think it was good. Like I said, I'd watch it again. Some of the animation was really nice. The characters were definitely interesting. I just feel that there were several elements that were a bit flawed, that weren't explained. And to be fair, I feel like it was aimed at a young audience, and so to that end, maybe it filled a purpose. But for me personally, watching it, it was kind of missing on a few points.
No, I get that, because in terms of, plot itself, and I think without nostalgia, I'd feel very much the same way. I think nostalgia does cloud a lot of judgment, or at least, like you were saying last week, a film can seem amazing depending on the circumstance to which it was seen or memories associated with it. And then when you look back at it, you kind of think maybe that was only that reason. So, I don't know. It was probably just that I remember it, but, still, I like it a lot, so.
Okay. So, round 2. Millie's movie. So, this week I chose The Lion King for my animated movie. So, The Lion King is one of the only animated movies I ever really watched as a child, and I absolutely loved it. I've always loved music, as you could probably tell from last week's choice. So, for me, this was a real standout. So, for those of you that have spent your life living under Pride Rock and don't know what The Lion King is, it's basically about this little lion cub called Simba. His dad's kind of like the king of the lion pack. Is lions a pack?
It's the pride.
Lion pride, sorry. And the only other kind of male in the pride is his uncle Scar, who is kind of like the bad guy who's jealous, who wants to, take power of the pride and basically kill both Simba and his father. So he's always hatching plans, and in the end he kills Simba's dad, and Simba then runs away because he thinks it's his fault. You then see, Simba develop through a series of amazing musical numbers, and he comes back to challenge his uncle and kind of take Pride Rock back. So I feel like that's a really brief overview. Like I said, for me the music was standout. Some of it was done by Elton John, which, big name there. But I just feel like the movie commands your attention from the first note you hear in the opening score. You know what I mean, JayBee? Like that,
Yeah.
From there you're listening, it's got your attention. I think it's brilliant. Like, I've seen so many adaptations of it at this point. I've seen the original animated, they did the more modern remake of it quite recently, and I've seen the musical as well. And the movie's not aged at all. Like, rewatching it, it was just as impressive as any of the more recent things that we've seen. I absolutely adore the movie. I think the voice acting's incredible. Young Simba just has such a special place in my heart. Like, the way that, you know, he does the musical numbers with like the little mischievous liveliness to the voice. In a way, I'm almost disappointed when they age in the middle of Hakuna Matata, because I don't know, I almost feel like the voice loses some life. So I feel like some of the younger acting in that is really impressive. That being said, I'm not taking away from the movie, because the second half is, you know, just as impactful, and it's the second half where the Can You Feel the Love Tonight song is, and, you know, that song I'd say holds a special place in my heart as well. So, you know, to that end, I just love the movie from start to finish, really. So what was your impression, JayBee?
Oh, well, look, The Lion King, I don't think it's in dispute at this point that it is a classic. Like you say, they've made, like, the stage production, which we saw together in London, and that's absolutely fantastic. I love how they recreated some of the scenes, and equally, I think the new modern remake, it has its merits, and I don't think either of them are bad, but I think at the end of the day, when the generations go on, I think people will still see the original, you know, classic Lion King as the definitive Lion King. And like you say, like, from the second it starts with that musical number, I think it was instantly a classic. Like, it's one of those things that I don't think a film, apart from maybe Frozen, a Disney film, has reached that level of mainstream popularity since. Of course, everyone watches Disney, but I don't think it's ever gone viral to the extent since The Lion King. Like, if you've never seen The Lion King, one, you should watch it, but I don't, like, Hakuna Matata, or, you know, In the Jungle, I think everyone knows that, even if they haven't seen The Lion King. It's just so iconic, and it honestly hasn't aged at all.
Like you were saying, though, about the kind of popularity of it, I feel like a lot of Disney, you just classify Disney movies as Disney Princess.
Yeah.
This isn't Disney Princess. This is kind of... It just is Disney in an entirely different light.
Literally, like, Disney classic.
And like I said, and I feel like this is so important to really stress, is just the musical score. Like, literally from that first note, it's just something that your eyes snap to, your ears, like, snap awake, your eyes do. It entices you completely.
It sets the mood perfectly, and the visuals are stunning. It really sets up, like, and even the song itself, if you listen to the lyrics, it pretty much does explain what's gonna happen. It's the circle of life. You see one generation, that's Mufasa, passing their, you know, it on to Simba, and then by the end of the film, you'll see Simba and Nala having their own cub. Like, it's a stunningly good opening with an amazing song that not only stood with people for years, but also explained the entire theme of the film. So I don't think you can get much better than that. And like you say with the voice acting, yeah, that's like the main people, like, I guess, Simba and Mufasa. But really, like, the other, like, voices are so iconic that almost watching the others, it feels a bit wrong without them. Yeah. Like, Rowan Atkinson as Zazu, I think that was amazing. That was perfect. And who else? And also Jeremy Irons as Scar.
See, sorry, just on this topic of both Rowan Atkinson and Scar there, because Rowan Atkinson, when he's in the song of
Just Can't Wait to Be King.
Can't Wait to Be King, yeah. Like, his voice in that, just the tone, how he gets such, like, a semi-authoritative voice in a singing tone that can almost be a level of ridicule as well. It's like
almost like dry humor.
So complex, that voice. I love it. And in terms of Scar, like, JayBee kind of has told me this before. He always thinks that villains get the best song. And in terms of Be Prepared, the vocal range in that, like, how you go from this amazing operatic, you know, dragged out Be Prepared to, like, a commanding Be Prepared There's so much vocal complexity and range there. I just think every second is superb.
And in one part, I think I read somewhere that he actually damaged like his voice box for, like, partially for the filming by like one part where he was screaming for like the song. Oh, and there's the imagery surrounding it, you know, with the marching. Everything, I think, is done perfectly in that sequence. Like, I don't know, and it's impossible not to compare this film with the other adaptations of it, or at least the other way around. Because like with the new Aladdin, really, I wasn't thinking at all of the original Aladdin when I was watching it. As much as I liked it, obviously there was the Robin Williams performance, which was the main thing, but you accepted Will Smith's genie. You kind of liked Will Smith's genie as a different entity. Whereas I remember watching the new Lion King, and I really hate comparing things to the remake. I really do. Like, I'd never watched The Amazing Spider-Man with the intent to disregard it in favour of, you know, the original Spider-Man. But you can't help, especially in some of the songs in this, like, if the new Zazu said something in a way and it wasn't how Rowan Atkinson said it, you kind of think, oh, well, they got that wrong.
Do you know what? There's so many iconic moments that the initial movie set, like, okay, so in the new remake, you know how Pumbaa and Timon cry at the end of Can You Feel the Love Tonight? In the modern remake, they don't. And we both looked at each other like...
Yeah, like, what?
This isn't it. This isn't real. This isn't the version, because it just is so iconic. When you sing Can You Feel the Love Tonight, you do the crying bit at the end. Everybody does it. And it's just not the same without it. So yeah, I just feel like for all the modern remake, I really liked. There's a bit more of a story to Scar and how he had felt for Mufasa's wife, and I did like that been added to the story. But in terms of the music, I just think The Lion King is the most iconic animated movie in history.
I think it's definitely a contender. Like. And the thing is with the new one, it doesn't justify its own existence. Like you say with like Scar's feelings for Sarabi, you get it planted in the start, but then it's so fixated on being like the original to a point in terms of story that it doesn't go anywhere. Like that line doesn't change anything of the story. And I kind of think that if it did try and be its own thing, more like the new Aladdin, it would have been more successful, because it's trying to be so much like the original Lion King, whilst also actively changing it. It's like, you know, if like you tried to copy someone's homework, but you have to change a few words, you know, add in a few synonyms, and then just submit it. They don't try and do anything different.
Yeah. See, I think, you know, what you've mentioned there's a, you know, seriously valid point, because we have discussed that there's so much that could be interesting about Scar. Where did the name Scar come from? Where did he get the scar? You know, it's known that Mufasa got the lion's share of the brawn, or whatever it is Scar says. And, you know that he, you know, and the remake reveals that he had feelings for Sarabi. So was there some kind of fight there? I just feel like there's so much that you could explore.
Oh, yeah, and that was something else they did in this one, when Mufasa said, "Oh, you know, is that a challenge?" and Scar says, "No, I'd never challenge you." In the new one, they said, "I'd never challenge you again."
Yeah.
So there's all that subtext, but it does nothing with
They could really have explored that, and the movie would have been so higher in my estimations. But like I said, for me, it's iconic. I'm going to give this movie a 5-star rating. And I don't think any remake of it is ever going to compare to the genius, because I think, honestly, that if you want to even look at recreating those songs, you need to do it word for word. Like I said, even just missing out that crying bit at the end, it lost something. And so, yeah, for me, this movie is 5 stars. Undoubtedly, I couldn't wish to change a single thing about it. I think it was Disney genius. JayBee, where's your stance?
I mean, I'm cautious about giving any film 5 stars, because that implies complete perfection. And I think this is so close to it, but there are problems that I can identify quite easily. In that Scar, he's set up to be the brains, you know, he got the smartness out of him and Mufasa. You know, Mufasa might have had the strength, but Scar had the brains. We've got this, like, seemingly Machiavellian genius. He plans everything. He plans Simba going away. He plans everything down to the meticulous, like, even in the Be Prepared song, meticulous planning, be prepared. Like, this is, like, his literal tagline is be prepared. And yet, when he has everyone where he wants them, like, Simba's been disgraced because everyone thinks that he killed Mufasa. The hyenas want to kill Simba. The lion and lionesses, like, the lionesses don't particularly want to defend Simba in that scenario after what Simba's admitted to. And because, you know, just because, like, I don't know. And literally, Simba's right where Scar wants him. He's dangling down by Pride Rock. All it would have taken was a shove or anything, and he's won, right? Like, Simba would die, there'd be no heir to the throne. But it's just because Scar angered him by revealing the truth that gave Simba the strength, and then he just tells everyone. He doesn't even try and, like, organise the hyenas to get Simba off him. It's just like, why is this genius that thrives on being prepared giving up all of his plans at the last minute to his own detriment? Like, I don't understand that at all. I mean, I guess they had to for plot. I just wish they'd done it better.
So what star rating do you think that equates to then, JayBee?
Because I really can't find much flaw with anything else. I mean, the songs are all perfect. I don't think there's one song that I dislike. And I don't know if that is enough to take away a point, but it's certainly not perfect. So I think it would be a crime to give it anything less than 4.5. So I think I'll have to give it 4.7 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
I think it's so close to perfection. There's just a few things that it's a bit too convenient to call it genius writing. It's definitely genius execution, and it's definitely art. It's a classic. Like, if we, you know, and obviously we have children and they're like, let's watch something, I would rather put this Lion King on than the remakes or anything like that. It's definitely something that's going to last forever, I think. It's just, I don't think it really reaches that 5-star thing. But, I don't know, maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and regret that I said that. But at the moment right now, I'm kind of feeling that, yeah.
Okay. So, round 3. This is the free-for-all. JayBee, tell me why Coraline deserves to win.
Okay, well, I think Coraline probably deserves to win in terms of story. Let's call it story. Because it's kind of been regarded as this thing where the Lion King, well, not trilogy, because the third one's kind of a bit wishy-washy, but at least the first 2 are kind of adaptations of Shakespeare plays. You've got number 1, you've got the first one as Hamlet, and the second one as Romeo and Juliet. And even though it's done fantastically, in fact, in many people's eyes, it's even surpassed what it was originally adapted from. I do think that the core book, at least, of Coraline, in terms of the source material that it's derived from, kind of deserves points for originality. And I guess the style of Coraline will probably not age better, but at least you can analyse things. Now, there's a lot, and because this is difficult, because we're talking about 2 very different films from very different eras. Like, in The Lion King, you know, the scene with the wildebeest when they go down to, you know, trample Mufasa. Apparently, I don't know what they did, but apparently that was the first time that they've managed to do things like that. And so that's groundbreaking. And I don't think Coraline does anything groundbreaking, but in terms of the imagery, like the use of colour, the use of contrast, and just imagery in general, I think it has more to say from a point of view of, right, if we take screenshots of every frame, there's meaning to quite a lot of them. I don't think any frame of Coraline is particularly wasted or just used for scenery. But, I don't know, I think when you put The Lion King against any animated film, I think The Lion King is more or less guaranteed to win. And ultimately, I think it will here. I don't think anyone, listen to this podcast thinking, oh, Coraline's going to win, because I don't think it can. But I don't know. I'm not convinced that a better arguer than me could make it win. I'm just not the person to do it.
I mean, you're certainly going up against a good arguer.
Yeah.
You've got to hand that to me. So, like, I'd kind of contrast what you're saying with the... I personally think The Lion King is more unique than Coraline. I think Coraline, what it boils down to is a child that's not happy about the life, experiences what a different life could be, and then realises that the life they've got's not so bad. So take Freaky Friday, for example. You get Lindsay Lohan, who doesn't appreciate her mum enough. They swap lives for a few days. She realises that her life's not that bad. I think that really it's kind of just another tale of spoilt brat syndrome. And whereas The Lion King, for all you've compared it to Hamlet, I don't feel like you could compare it to many other things where, a child goes through real sacrifice and kind of comes back from that quite strongly.
I would argue all you need to do is look at every superhero origin story ever, and you've kind of got very strong parallels.
Fair enough, I don't watch superhero movies. But I just think that The Lion King was kind of...
It's definitely a classic.
I feel like it was one of the originals.
I mean, there's expression, which is an important aspect. Like, I just kind of like how Coraline is something that you'd watch as not really a horror, but definitely a bit of an oddity. Like, it's a gothic horror animation, and I think that alone is quite unique. I like the style. It is very Tim Burton-y, so it's not, completely on its own, but it's definitely a niche genre.
Yeah, but like you were saying, it's not completely unique in that there is, say, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Hotel Transylvania that's about some goth girl. Like, there is a few things that you could kind of draw a parallel to, whereas, as we were saying before, Disney's typically Disney princess. This was going out of the box. This was something different. Maybe there is... I don't think there's much you could draw parallels to. Maybe the closest would be The Jungle Book, I think.
The Jungle Book.
But even then, you've got... is it Mowgli in there?
Yeah.
That is still, like, that human aspect. So to that end, I'd say The Lion King was really far more unique.
I think it will definitely win. It's just that thing where, again, it's so difficult. It is difficult, and I don't know why, because I think that they're more similar than last week's, Spider-Man and Frozen. But in a way, they couldn't be more different when you think about when they were released, what they achieved, what they're about. Yeah, I think it's very difficult to compare them, but I don't know. I think definitely I'll bow myself out and admit The Lion King is in fact the king. But I don't know. I'm not completely convinced that a more intelligent person could argue my point better.
Okay, well, I think that summarises that. So, JayBee, do you declare The Lion King the winner of the week?
I do, in fact, declare Lion King as the winner.
Okay, so to that end, we've had one victory to JayBee for last week and one victory to Millie for this week. Woo! So, guys, it's time to pick next week's category. Okay, guys, so let's open the box.
Okay.
JayBee, what colour do you think I should pick?
Pink, please.
You want a pink one? I'm going for this one.
I'm getting excited now.
Okay. So, guys, if there's any bad spelling on here, I do apologise.
It wasn't me.
We are going for based on a true story.
Oh, that's a really interesting one.
Based on a true story.
I'm not entirely convinced what I'm going to choose. I've got a few ideas, but again, in a very more real aspect, I have no clue.
I don't have a clue at all.
But anyway, guys, there you have it. Based on a true story, make sure to tune in for that. You've been watching Friday Film Fight with JayBee and Millie. Thank you so much. I hope you guys are staying safe. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. JayBee and Millie.
JayBee and Millie.